So we are doing our group case presentation on Tyler. Our group members is Riley Mason, me, Bethany McCoy, and Kalma Mancavo. So here's our presentation. Bethany will talk demographics.
Okay, so the person's name is Tyler Dillons. He's a 17-year-old male. He's 5'7" and 115 pounds. He lives in a poor community in Oklahoma with his mother and his 2 younger siblings.
So the next slide, we'll talk about Tyler's individual behavior. So Tyler's behavioral traits include being kind of quiet. He's short-tempered. He's caring towards younger kids and animals. And he's also had issues with mental illness all throughout his life. However, during his freshman year, his behavior was a little bit different. He was a little bit more happy and motivated and actually wanting to be at school. And so just the shift was a big change because he went from being happy and bubbly to not caring about really anything. Tyler's past relationships, he had 2 girlfriends. His first girlfriend, she was super controlling and she believed in Wiccan and I don't know, she was really controlling. So he broke up with her. And then his second girlfriend ended up cheating on him, and he ended up going and finding the guy that he cheated on and beat him up, which made him lose his job. Tyler, he had a really rough childhood. His parents are divorced. He faced sexual assault at a young age from his dad's friend. He also faced bullying. Tyler also had issues with irritability, so it made him really hard to find good friends that actually wanted to be around him. He also had a really big responsibility at home. He had 2 younger siblings and his mom didn't have a very good paying job, so he had to end up paying half the rent for his family. So the trauma that was caused by the sexual assault, Tyler relied on drugs in reaction to this. So he ended up stealing drugs from his parents and ended up taking them for 6 years. However, he got caught in school twice, so that caused him to get expelled. Tyler is also experiencing thoughts of self-harm, hallucinations, and serious anger issues. The hallucinations were pretty serious. He ended up hearing voices in the walls, TVs, and other people, and he always felt like people were watching him all the time.
For the DSM-5 diagnosis, he can be diagnosed with bipolar and other related disorders due to another medical condition. The DSM-5 requires a persistent, elevated, expansive, or irritable mood and high energy. No other mental disorder should be present that could explain the symptoms. Instead, symptoms are a direct pathophysiological consequence of another medical condition. According to the individual's information, he is easily agitated and will be easily thrown into anger. He seems to be slow at school, but he's also hardworking. As the DSM-5 diagnosis says, these symptoms can't be explained by other mental disorders, but are a consequence of schizophrenia and major depressive disorder.
He is also diagnosed with schizophrenia. According to the DSM-5 diagnosis, schizophrenia is a serious mental disorder in which people interpret reality abnormally. It might result in a combination of hallucinations, delusions, and extremely disordered thinking and behavior. According to the information given from the client, Tyler Dillons, he believes that figures talk to him and claims to have demons in his head. He also thinks that the walls are making noises and strange things in his home, which are proof of delusion and hallucination. In addition, he has a case of schizophrenia in his family. Another thing that we diagnosed him with is major depressive disorder. The DSM-5 outlines the following criteria to make a diagnosis of depression: The individual must be experiencing 5 or more symptoms during the same 2-week period. At least one of them should be either depressive mood or loss of interest or pleasure. According to the summary of the client's behavior, Tyler Dillon stayed by himself, and he has 2 assault cases against him when he was younger, and he has punched holes in his walls. He draws scary figures, and he's quiet and doesn't have a lot of friends. He had 2 traumatic past relationships, as Riley said before, and he has a problem with substance abuse. In addition, he has a case of depression in his family and substance abuse as well.
And then I'll do this slide. So the biological perspective, there's several factors that are likely to contribute to the risk of developing schizophrenia. It tends to run in families. So much research has focused on genetic variations that affect disease risks. This is from InGov, which is shown in Tyler's case. His family had past experience of mental illness. Tyler's family members have a past with schizophrenia, ADHD, bipolar, and depression. Tyler's mental illness may be due to genetic factors. Tyler also had a substance use disorder that also may stem from genetic factors due to his father and his substance abuse. Studies have shown that genetics can play a role in addiction or can make an individual more vulnerable to addiction. Tyler has auditory hallucinations. He hears noises in the walls and hears voices talking to him. People diagnosed with schizophrenia also have or often have an overactive auditory cortex, so they can hear, like, everything around them is almost amplified. So this part of the brain that processes sounds and noises.
Okay, so as far as Callie, are you doing this?
No, it's you.
Okay, so as far as treatment goes for schizophrenia, antipsychotic drugs are often effective at managing symptoms such as delusions and hallucinations, loss of motivation, and lack of emotion. The goal of the treatment is to manage symptoms at the lowest possible dose. Individual treatment or individual therapy is also a treatment option. Psychotherapy, such as cognitive behavior therapy, with a skilled mental health professional, can help Tyler learn ways to deal with the stress and daily life challenges brought on by schizophrenia. During crisis periods, hospitalization may be necessary.
Now I'm going to talk about the treatment for major depressive disorder. I suggest being treated by a psychiatrist and a psychologist. There are several antidepressant medications that help to regulate brain chemistry, and the psychiatric will choose accordingly to the patient's profile. For the psychologist approach, I recommend cognitive behavioral therapy to reintroduce him to pleasurable events and activities and help him improve social skills, and interpersonal therapy to help him focus on relieving symptoms and improving interpersonal functioning. Now for the treatment of bipolar and related disorder due to another medical condition. The most effective treatment for bipolar and related disorder due to another medical condition is a combination of medication and psychotherapy. Most people take more than one drug, like a mood stabilizing drug and a antipsychotic or antidepressant. Cognitive behavioral therapy is also highly recommended and involves trying to change patterns of thinking. Interpersonal therapy will also help individuals with mood disorders managing stressful life events and improve interpersonal relations. But to the effectiveness of the treatment of Tyler, he has to do also the treatment for substance abuse. And the therapies and medication will help, but also a way to help the addiction of alcohol and drugs. It's like group meetings named sobriety support groups, such as Alcoholics Anonymous.
And these are our resources used for our information.